Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to go ahead and film my breastfeeding experience both with Rowan and Jackson, and then kind of give you guys the tips that I've learned through both experiences. Chit chat about supply issues, increasing your supply, and certain things that I've found that have kind of helped me with all of that. First thing I want to say, big disclaimer, this is not me saying you should breastfeed, you should only breastfeed, that breast is best. That's not the case at all. I personally believe that fed is best, and you do whatever works best for you, whether that's nursing, exclusively pumping, doing both, doing formula, combo feeding, whatever works for you, do that. But I'm going to try my hardest to not ramble in this video. I tend to be a rambler, especially when I'm filming, and I know there's a lot of topics that I want to touch on in this video, so I'm just going to try my very hardest not to ramble. I do have my phone, which has some notes and key points for me to go ahead and follow along with, just so I can make sure that I hit everything for you guys. But let's just go ahead, get started, because I know this is going to be a long one. I figured first I'd go ahead and chit chat about my experiences with breastfeeding. So with Rowan, I feel like my experience was very stressful and overwhelming. I feel like no one really talks to you about breastfeeding, especially when you're a younger mom. I feel like you just kind of go into it. No one really says like, okay, here's what to expect, here's what's gonna happen. It can be hard. People don't tell you that it can be hard. I feel like I went into it very blind. And so if you didn't know, my oldest son, Rowan, I had him around 36 weeks. We did have cholestasis with him, so I had to have him early. We did an induction, which didn't work. Ended up doing a C-section. So because I had him so early and I had a C-section, my body was not ready, and I did not have any milk supply when I had him, which I think was like the key to all the stress, because the first experience I had with breastfeeding was just this overwhelming experience of feeling like I didn't have enough milk, because technically I didn't have any milk in yet. So what the nurses had me doing was bringing him to the breast to try to get him to eat. Would really only get like a drop or two, and then they would go ahead and give him donor milk via a syringe, because he didn't have the greatest latch and didn't have the greatest suckle. So we did feed him through a syringe with donor milk after he came to my breast, and while he was getting the donor milk, I would go ahead and pump. Again, I was only getting like a drop or two. I really was getting nothing, but it was just to tell my body, obviously, to start making milk. And then from there, I went ahead and eventually obviously started to make milk. I think it was like day 2 or 3 of us being on the hospital after having him. I did start to make enough where he could go ahead and have my milk. Ignore my dogs. He could go ahead and have my milk through the syringe instead of having donor milk. So then I would just kind of be ahead of a pump. So whatever I pumped last session, he would be getting this next time to eat after he came to my breast. And then whatever I'm pumping right now, I would go ahead and give him next time he's ready to eat while I pump for the next feeding. So it was essentially just, I constantly had to be ahead of it, as well as bringing him to my boobs, which was really stressful once we got home. I was able to maintain it pretty well in the hospital, obviously, but once we got home, I felt like I was basically tied to a pump 24/7. Nights were really, really hard, because essentially what was happening was he would wake up, I would change his diaper, get him ready to eat, whatever, bring him to my boob, and then go ahead and give him whatever I had pumped. And by the time that that was all done, he had been up for like an hour. He would sleep for like an hour, but then I have to pump. So they told me to pump for like 15 minutes each side, which would then leave me with literally 30 minutes to sleep before he woke up again to eat. So it was really stressful, especially at night. I constantly felt like I was attached to a pump, and eventually I decided to go ahead and cut out pumping at night just because it overwhelmed me. At this point, he was starting to get more from my boobs, where he really didn't need me pumping to have like supplement at the next feeding, if that makes sense. So I stopped pumping at night, which I don't regret that decision. It was killing me pumping at night. Which then leads me to the next problem that happened, which is I ended up, when he was like a week old, like just over a week old, I think, I actually went to my parents' house. I was just gonna go for one night and a day to spend Easter with them. John actually had to work on Easter, so he was gonna stay at our place, which is like 45 minutes from my parents' place, and I was gonna go to my parents' house for Easter to go ahead and celebrate with them. So I stayed one night, and then we had Easter day together, and then I decided to stay another night. The issue was I actually left my electric pump at my house with John, and only had a manual pump, so that's fine. I was manually pumping, but the problem was that after I spent Easter night with my parents and then woke up the next morning, I was gonna go home, which I'd have my electric pump, it would be great. John actually got a flu and I could not obviously go home. I could not bring Rowan home because he was only a week old. Neither of us should be catching a flu, especially because Rowan was a preemie. We didn't know how his immune system was and he was super jaundiced and we just didn't want to cause any issues. So I actually stayed at my parents' house for like a week after that while John rode out this flu fever thing he had. It was like, I think only like a 72-hour thing. Because of that, I didn't have my electric pump with me and I got really lazy with my manual pump, which is fine. I didn't need to pump. This was just for freezer supply. But then anytime I did pump, I would just feed that to Rowan at the next feeding. And then I wouldn't pump or bring him to my boob at that feeding. And that's the issue that I was doing is, so either I wasn't pumping and I wasn't nursing, or I would pump and then I would just go ahead and use that for the next nursing session and skip a whole session basically, which started to decrease my supply rapidly. Skipping feedings, obviously, if you're not creating the demand for milk, your body is not gonna make the milk. So I started to decrease in supply, and then the 6-week milestone came by and I did not know this was a big growth spurt milestone for babies. And typically when they're going through growth spurts, it's super common for your boobs to feel super empty and for baby to be cluster feeding and on your boob 24/7. I did not know this, so I thought, oh, my boobs feel empty and he's hungry all the time. I screwed up my supply by not pumping and now I have no supply. So right around 2 months, I want to say, I stopped nursing because I thought I wasn't creating enough milk for him. And we just started using the milk we had in the freezer, and we did that for like another month and a half, and then we went fully to formula. All that being said, I am pretty sure I had a fine supply with Rowan. I just psyched myself out because I thought that my pumping screwed me over, and once I got to that growth spurt, I had no clue, didn't have enough knowledge, and I thought that I had just no milk for him. So that was my experience with Rowan. I think learning from the experience, my biggest suggestion, especially for new young moms, if you don't really know much about breastfeeding, just kind of have been told, oh, you'll figure it out, oh, your baby might have latch issues. Like if you don't know a whole lot, if you haven't done it before, I definitely recommend doing nursing classes. I really wish that I had done that, reaching out to a lactation consultant and just kind of getting your grounds in those early months and even before you have your baby. I think that would be super duper useful. Going into my experience with Jackson, so far, if you don't know, he's almost 2 months old. In like 4 or 5 days he'll be 2 months. But so far experience has been drastically different from Rowan. I have officially made it farther than I had with Rowan, with just exclusively bringing him to the boob and nursing. This is, I guess, my first actual tip. This being said, please, please, please talk to your doctor before you do this. This is not, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. However, I did do my research and I did talk to my doctor beforehand and he did think it would be good for me. And that is, I actually pumped before I had my baby. So I knew the week that I was going to be having Jackson. So the week leading up to that, I actually pumped. This can be dangerous just because it can cause contractions, which put you in preterm labor. I already knew I was gonna have my baby early. I knew when I was gonna have my baby. And I had been having prodromal labor for several weeks before this. So my doctor and I were both in the comfort area of, okay, if this does kickstart my labor, whatever, that would be great and we can avoid an induction entirely. It did not kickstart my labor whatsoever. But since we didn't know if my supply with Rowan was a struggle, and we knew I was gonna be having a preemie, we wanted me to go ahead and start pumping a little bit earlier just to kind of get my milk to come in, which that did work. So I would just pump for like literally 5 minutes, maybe once or twice a day. Obviously when I was doing this, I wasn't getting very much milk because I hadn't had my baby yet and there wasn't really any milk to be getting. It would be like maybe a drop or two, but that was good because it was telling my body like, hey, start making some milk. And so when I did have Jackson, I actually had a really great supply of colostrum, and he fortunately had no latch issues, no sucking issues. He is a great feeder. So we got to start off really well. I didn't pump while I was in the hospital. It's one thing I wish I did do, because obviously those early days, it's really good to establish your supply, but we were only in the hospital for like 24 hours after we had Jackson. Even though we had a C-section, I was able to get my doctor to release us within 24 hours. So we exclusively nursed for the first few days, and that was great. Again, like I said, we had no issues. And then I started pumping. I still do not pump at night. As I mentioned with Rowan, I didn't pump at night. I still don't pump at night just because it's not good. It's just not for me. I'm trying to maybe start working my way there, but I'll talk about that later in the video. But as of right now, I do not pump at night. I do pump during the day though. I did start to get a little worried about my supply. Side note, Jackson has now joined us, but this is before I really knew about growth spurts and like what to expect when they are happening, and like what the signs are when they're happening, and what the big times that they happen. Around the 6-week mark again, Jackson started to get super fussy, was hungry all the time, super hungry all the time, and nursing all the time, and I noticed my boobs felt emptier. I started to get super stressed out, thinking that this is the same thing that happened with Rowan. Oh no, my milk supply is not gonna hold up. And then I did some research, and upon my research, I discovered 6 weeks is a super common time for growth spurts. And it's very common for your boobs to feel empty and for baby to be cluster feeding, and like it's all just a matter of time for your boobs start to make enough milk to keep up. Long story short, I realized that with Rowan, I probably had a fine supply, and it was just the growth spurts psyching me out. And so that's what I made sure to not let stress me out this time with Jackson. Once I realized what it was, I was like, okay, it is what it is. Just bring up to the boob as much as possible. Now that we are past that 6-week mark, my supply, again, like I said, is doing just fine. We are maintaining great, and he is eating plenty. So definitely was just the growth spurt, definitely psyching myself out, which just is very reassuring that that was just the growth spurt, and I need to just chill the heck out because, like I said, I have a fine supply. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just get into what I've been doing to maintain and increase my milk supply, and all the tips and tricks that I have for you guys, as well as the things that I find are super essential when it comes to breastfeeding. The next thing is, I think it's super important to have some sort of goal, overall goal, and a short-term like daily goal or weekly goal, however it works for you. Personally, overall, like I just said, I want to breastfeed exclusively for 6 months. Around then, I will start to introduce a bottle. Whether or not I stick with that, maybe we do the bottle earlier, maybe we do it later, I have no clue, but that is my goal for right now. As for my short-term goal, I do daily goals, and my daily goal as of right now is to fill 1 to 2 freezer bags. I always like to say 1 because that's just a good baseline, I feel like, for me. I feel like it's just good to have a daily goal. Again, whatever works for you. If you're only getting 1 ounce a day, that's fine. Make your goal to be 1 ounce. Maybe you're exclusively pumping and you're filling up 3 to 4 bags a day. Great, make your goal 3 to 4 bags a day. Like whatever works, just make sure you have a baseline. That way you know you have something working towards, because I feel like sometimes I can get a little lazy with pumping, especially having a toddler and a baby. Having like both of them, I feel like I just have no time. And sometimes when I get that free chance, I'm like, nah, I'd rather just sit and eat some chips and watch a TV show and relax. But it's not that hard to go ahead and whip out a pump. Just go ahead and pump and work towards your daily goals. So that's my first advice. For the things that I think have been super helpful for me to go ahead and maintain a supply, as well as building up a freezer stash. The first thing that's going to be your bestest friend is a Haakaa. I don't know if you guys know what a Haakaa is. This one's not the actual like Haakaa brand. I have 2 of them, but they're essentially these little silicone things that you go ahead and you just stick on your boob, and they will catch your letdown. I will nurse usually on one side and then go ahead and use this on the other side, and I will usually get around 3-ish ounces on this, and then I go ahead and pump as well, and I'll get like an additional ounce or 2. But it's so helpful, especially if your baby only eats off of one side, and just go ahead and create the demand. That way you can drain your boob and then go ahead and bring baby over there, and they'll help create more demand for more milk to come in. Plus it's super on the go and easy, so you can just go ahead, throw it in your diaper bag if you're out and about and it just need to go ahead and use it. Grab it out, and then you can go ahead and pour it into a bottle or something for easy storage. I'll go ahead and link the Haakaa down below. I'm pretty sure I got it off of Amazon. As of lately, as I mentioned, I do want to try and start introducing pumping at night again, but I'm just definitely not there yet. Maybe once he's spacing out his feedings a little bit more. But at night, I have now been trying to introduce my Haakaa at night. I didn't use it during my nighttime feedings just because I was always scared I was gonna spill the milk or whatever. But I do want to start storing even more milk. So I am starting to use it at night as well. For the most part, I wanna say I've built a good majority of my milk stash in my freezer off of my Haakaa versus my pump, just because it's so much more convenient. You're already feeding your baby, you can just go ahead and throw it on, especially with a toddler. Like I said, it can be hard to find time after I nurse my baby, burp my baby, get my baby back to sleep, to go ahead and then pump, because usually my toddler is like, okay, now make me lunch, okay, now change my diaper. So I don't always have the time to pump, so it just helps make it way easier. Next tip I have is make sure you're taking care of yourself. I think this is something that a lot of people brush off, and you're like, yeah, I'm totally taking care of myself. I had some food later today, like that's fine. No, actually take care of yourself. Unlike when you were pregnant, your body is going to take any nutrients you are getting and make sure you are fulfilled first, not your baby. So it's not going to send it directly to your breast milk. It's going to worry more about taking care of you first. I personally have found that the easiest way to start by doing this is to start taking a multivitamin. You can also take your prenatal. I finished off my prenatal container. Yeah, buddy? I just finished off my prenatals after I think I had like 2 weeks worth after I had Jackson. So then I just went to a multivitamin. Obviously it is pretty empty, but it's just the Ray's Women's multivitamins. That's what I have been taking. It's just a great way to get a baseline of nutrients into your system. And along with that, make sure you're eating actual meals, nutritious meals with actual value to them. I'm telling you, this will make the biggest difference. I always notice a huge difference when I had an actual legit dinner at night, the times that I had literally like a bowl of oatmeal. Along with that, you can go ahead and introduce things that can help increase your milk supply. There is lots of different foods and stuff. I know that chickpeas is a big one. I know people say like coconut water and coconut milk is a really big thing, as well as oats in general is a big one. You can go ahead and check out some Pinterest links. I'll link them down below for you guys to see. I think they're called like galactagogues or something. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure that is what they're called. They're different types of foods that just help increase your milk supply. Now, going along with taking care of yourself, this is like the biggest thing, that if you do anything when it comes to breastfeeding to help maintain or increase your supply, do this. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. It is so important to stay hydrated. Obviously, you are creating a liquid for another child. Therefore, you need to be intaking liquids regularly, enough for yourself as well as for your baby. So make sure you're hydrated. I try to keep a cup of water by my side all the time. A cup of water with me at all times. Anytime I go to nurse or go to pump, I try to drink a cup of water. It's just so important to stay hydrated. I know there's 2 drinks out there that people say are like really good for creating your milk supply, and that's like the Body Armor drinks, and then I've seen people mention the pink drink or any of those like coconut milk based drinks from Starbucks. I personally love the pink drink. I drink it all the time, not necessarily for my milk supply though. I don't know if I really see a difference from my milk supply. I do see a difference though when I drink the Body Armor drinks, probably because they have a bunch of electrolytes in them and such, but they're super duper sugary, so I definitely suggest avoiding them if you can. Drink one every now and then if you really feel like you need it, but please keep in mind all the sugar content in those. And then along with that, I've actually discovered this thing called liquid IV. Pour it into your water, and it essentially takes 1 cup of water to equal 3 cups of water. Again, it's all science, something about your cells and transportation. I don't know any of it, but again, it'll all be down below for you guys to check out. But I do find those help me stay hydrated through the days when I just have been slacking on my hydration. So definitely go ahead and check those out. Like I said, definitely a better alternative to those super duper sugary drinks. And then the next thing is probably the reason a lot of you guys are here, and that is this company called Legendairy Milk. If you have not heard of this company, please, please, please look into it. This is not sponsored or anything like that, but I love their products. I have been using them for I think like the last 2-3 weeks now, and they have made such a difference in my supply. honestly definitely see myself using these throughout my entire breastfeeding journey because they're amazing. These products are all fenugreek free, sugar free, vegan friendly products. If you don't know what fenugreek is, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but it's an herb that is super common in lactation supplements, lots of pills, lots of drinks, lots of those cookies, those like little oat cookies and stuff for lactation. It's a super common herb, and sure, for some people it does do really amazing things with their supply, but for a lot of people they actually have a lot of issues with it. Some of those issues being that it just completely decreases their supply, they never get an increase. Some people, it increases their supply, but the second they stop taking it, it'll completely plummet their supply. And then a lot of other people, it actually causes, I don't even know, it can cause your baby to be like super gassy, it can cause your baby to be super fussy, it can actually make the mom and the baby smell like maple syrup, which that doesn't even make any sense to me. But essentially there can be lots of side effects and issues with fenugreek. The products that I have been taking, so I did take a Pump Princess for about a week. Here's this one. So I took it for about a week. They have two different types of like sizes that you can order. There's a 10-day supply and then the 1-month supply. This is the 10-day supply. Just because I didn't know if it was going to work for me, and it did work, but it wasn't fantastic. It wasn't the exact results that I was looking for. I want to say that in the mornings, your morning pump, which is usually when you yield the most milk, I was only getting like 1 ounce. And then when I started taking that, I was getting a little closer to 2 ounces, but again, it just wasn't the exact results that I was looking for. So after I finished my supply of that, I went ahead and tried these two products in combination. So many people rave about these two products in combination, so I figured I'd go ahead and give them a try. So the two products is Lactivist as well as Cash Cow. I've been using those two products for about 2 weeks now, and they have made the biggest difference. So now with those products, I'm getting closer to, honestly, this morning, I think it was 7 ounces in the morning pump. So definitely made a huge difference. Highly suggest. I would say to try those two products to start, just because I've seen so many people as well as myself have really great experience with it. I think that's kind of the best combo to go for, but they do have a bunch of different products for you to go ahead and try, because obviously everybody's body, as we know, reacts different to things. So, and also everyone's looking to achieve different things, so they have a bunch of different products that all do different things for you guys to go ahead and check out. Hey guys, it's Editing Kayla here. I just realized I forgot to mention one thing that I've been loving, and that is the Kindy system. So essentially this will allow you to avoid spill milk ever again. So you can go ahead and actually pump directly into these bags. There's a bunch of different adapters. I use it with my Spectra pump. If you have a Spectra pump, it works with that. But you go ahead and can pump directly into this bag, and then you freeze it, and then you can actually use this bag with their little like bottle adapter. I'm pretty sure it comes with it. I don't know, my insurance sent it to me, but you can go ahead and actually connect this to a bottle top, and then you can actually feed with this, and then eventually in the future you can actually go ahead and use these to put pureed food in. So I highly recommend the Kindy system. That way you can avoid spilling your milk ever again. Okay guys, but that is all the tips and my experience that I have for you guys. If you guys want a video that's exclusively more breastfeeding tips, let me know, because I do have a bunch more.